Welcome to Doc NYC and the special Q&A for 1,000 Cuts. I'm Tom Powers, the festival's artistic director. This film is playing as part of Doc NYC's Shortlist, the section where we choose 15 films that we think will be top contenders for awards this year. I'm very pleased to have with us the film's director, Ramona Diaz, joining us from Baltimore, and Maria Ressa, joining us from Manila. Thank you both for being here very much.
Thanks for having us, Tom.
See, we're in chorus now.
Maria, let me start with you. We're talking right now on November 9th. What is the current status of, your various cases with the government?
Ongoing. Of course, June 15th, I was convicted in the first of 8 criminal charges. That brings up to 6 years in prison, but we've now appealed it to the Court of Appeals. There are 4 other tax evasion charges that I expect will come to a decision in the coming months. Those are the next ones. And I have 3 more complaints that have just come in the last month. So I guess it's like a treadmill, right? I'm keeping going and fighting each step of the way, demanding a signature for every blow of injustice that we get.
Well, I guess that speaks to the title, 1,000 Cuts. That's what you're experiencing. And
absolutely.
And tell us about the work of the Rappler right now.
If anything, it just shows you how important it is to keep doing what we're doing. Because I think this is happening not just in the Philippines, but everywhere around the world, including, thankfully, looking at the United States and how you've weathered elections. When social media, Facebook is the world's largest distributor of news, and when lies laced with anger and hate spread faster and further than facts, this is a reality we deal with. That's kind of been the work of Rappler. We take apart the tech that we once embraced. We were first to tell you that this is a behavior modification system. Essentially, we started doing this in 2016, and then speaking truth to power to us in 2016 became speaking truth to Rodrigo Duterte and a violence of the atmosphere of violence and intimidation that's created, and to Mark Zuckerberg, and thank you for asking about that. But Rappler has, the way we deal with this is, we pretend, we knock away the Damocles sword hanging over our heads so we can keep doing what we do.
Ramona, you've made a number of films about the Philippines from different angles. How did you get started on this one?
Well, I was drawn to the Philippines again because of the drug war. When President Duterte became president in 2016, and the drug war happened immediately after he became president. Well, he ran on it. It was one of his campaign promises. But when the reality of 8 bodies every night on the ground, right, started happening, it was horrific. And I saw the pictures on Facebook on my feed, and I said, I need to look into this, because I was raised under martial law during the 70s and 80s, so I knew what the horrific years of dictatorship under Marcos, and this just sounded very much like that. So it was going back, and it was troubling. So that was what drew me to the Philippines. And then when I got there, I realized a lot of people were drawn to the drug war. And as you know, there have been many other films done about the drug war already. So I sort of pivoted because I wanted to also, pull back and see it from a bigger point of view. And there was Maria and Rappler questioning the drug war, questioning impunity, questioning the numbers of the dead, and also relating it to disinformation. And Maria was actually talking about algorithms and Facebook and the weaponization of social media back in 2016. So I just felt like it was perfect because it was very specifically the Philippines, and yet global, right? It sort of transcends its specificity, and it also makes it timeless because all of the themes of David of Goliath, speaking truth to power, So that's how it began. And then of course, then she gave us access. And the first day of shooting, actually, like principal photography, she got arrested. Maria got arrested. So we were off to the races like day one, which it's been like such a crazy ride ever since then.
Maria, nice for you to deliver that drama to Ramona. And
I wish it wasn't my life, right?
Documentary filmmaker looks for.
Yeah.
I mean, Maria, what is it about Ramona and her work that gave you a feeling of trust to let her tell your story?
I mean, the first meeting was really just to go, hey, Ramona, in 2004, you turned me down for an interview. So why did you do that?
I have to explain why I did. Go ahead, Maria. Okay.
But that was, I think there were three reasons why we gave her so much access, why I did. The first was trust grows. So after I asked her that question, she responded honestly, which I value, and it connects to this next part, which is Filipino and American. Americans sometimes are too blunt for Filipinos, and Filipinos are not honest enough for Americans. These are the cultural kind of stereotypes. But I think, over time, her being bluntly honest was exactly what I needed at a time when I wanted to have this time period documented. I mean, it still continues. It's insane. It really, we're living in the upside down, and it's got to turn right side up at some point, but who knows what will happen. And the filming happened actually at the exact time when what you would think would be unthinkable happened. Arrested, detained, I'm not doing anything wrong. And then to have to face the public to defend yourself is also crazy, right? So finding the words, having it documented. So I think those three things, it's like the time was so fragile. Everything was fragile. We were making split-second decisions. Her own personal ways of dealing with sensitive issues. And then the third is Filipino American. We come from more than one world, and oftentimes, I've always joked that when I'm with Filipinos, I feel most American, and when I'm with Americans, I feel most Filipino. You're part of both, but yet you're also part of neither, and that was interesting to be able to talk about that.
Ramona, you want to tell your side of the story, that when you turned down Maria?
Because I'm always right.
Yeah. So it was 2004, Tom, and I just come out with my very first film, Imelda. And I had to fly to the Philippines because about former Philippine First Lady Imelda Marcos. And I had to fly to the Philippines to defend the film because she was suing us, actually. We were in court. So I flew to the Philippines, and the distributor, the publicist of the distributor said, these are all the people who want to interview you. And Maria Ressa was on the list. And Maria then was the face of CNN in Southeast Asia. So if Maria Ressa wants to interview you, it's like, that's a really good thing, right? So I said, oh, Maria. I'm like, oh, great. That's fantastic. And someone said, well, she doesn't like the film too much. She has issues with the film. I'm like, oh, gosh, I was so tired, Tom. I was in the middle of a film festival, in the film festival circuit. And I was only in the Philippines to defend the film. So I wanted to litigate the litigation, but not the film. Right? I'm like, I don't think I want to talk to her. I said, I just don't have the energy, please. And so I turned her down. And so fast forward 14 years later, I'm in her office and I'm thinking, oh my God, she's not going to remember. My God, she remembers 14 years ago. And that's what she goes, I've always wondered why you turned me down 14 years ago. And so we've been having a discussion of why it was that I turned her down ever since then. And that was 2 years ago.
But the fun part of that, Tom, is it goes to the heart of what we do, which is, where is the line between when you're silent and you become complicit, right? Where is that line between calling it out and silence becomes complicity? And we have this debate all the time. So, all right, I'll step back.
Yeah. But verite is not silence. It's not complicity. Film is a constructed medium, so you're never silent. It cannot be objective.
Let me ask about the observational qualities of this film, because Maria, it's one thing for Ramona to be following you in court or in your newsroom, but some of the really poignant moments of this film are the quieter moments, with your family, or in a hotel room packing up to go back to the Philippines. That feels very personal, of course, tied up to the political, but very personal. And I wonder if you can talk about what it was like letting a camera in for those scenes.
I mean, by that point, you know, they were like oxygen already. I mean, they were just part of the air we were breathing, and I've been on the other side, so I know how to block them out. um, but I think it was my sisters, and the funny part is, again, when you're in these two worlds. When I'm traveling, I'm used to being alone and transitioning to whatever reality that world I walk into, uh, and then to have kind of a connective tissue uh, actually was both helpful and meta. It was a little bit meta in that sense. But my sisters were the ones who had to get used to it. When I was in New York, the times when I was in New York last year were the times when I had to deal with the possibility I could go to jail. The fact that I have to tell my family, because my family's used to this. I used to, when I was with CNN and I was covering conflicts, CNN assigned somebody at our desk just to handle my mom, because my mom will call the satellite phone and ask, interrupt the live shot. So, but my sisters have gotten used to this, because one of my best friend from college calls me a stoic in the old definition of it, because I want to absorb so I can understand it. And sometimes that means it looks like I have no reaction, but I actually am absorbing it so that my reaction is more informed. That's what my family's gotten used to for me. So having Ramona, having the team there was something my sisters had to get used to, but they're nice people. So,
When your mom would like message me and
oh,
say,
that's
"Oh, so
scary.
you're with," yeah, she would message me and say, "So you're with Maria," and I knew she would want to know where. Right? She couldn't ask me exactly where we were, so I'd say, "Yes, Tita, we are in New York." So I would tell her, and I knew then, okay, I'm like this, like in between Maria and her parents, which is funny.
Ramona, tell me what you were experiencing when Maria was making that tough decision to go back to the Philippines, knowing that she could be facing going to prison. You have dedicated a lot of your life to filming the Philippines. Maybe you do so with a little extra protection, knowing that you can come back to the U.S. So, what were you thinking?
Tom, by then I knew that Maria would go back, because I knew she would not want, she'd want to face whatever it was that was whatever they were accusing her of in the Philippines. And she always said she wanted to face her accusers and she wanted to prove them wrong. So everyone else was saying, "Why do you have to go back?" Because she is, she's also an American. She's a dual citizen. She's also an American citizen. She could easily stay, but by then I knew there was no way she was going to stay. And at first I didn't understand it, but then I came to understand it. I came to really, yeah, it is important. It is important to stand up and say, "No, you're wrong. I'm here." And yeah, to stand up to your accusers and to bear witness as well.
Maria, as I wrap this up, I want to ask your perspective on the U.S. elections. Maybe it's misdirected, since this is a film about the Philippines, but what happens in the U.S. Has a lot of effect on the Philippines. So, what are you feeling right now as we talk on November 9th, a couple days after Joe Biden has won the electoral votes to be president?
You survive just by a little, and to me, the fact that the United States uh, is at this point shows you exactly how potent the here, this is you. If you saw the film, you know that I focus on the social media platforms and Facebook in particular, because all ills begin there, right? The solutions of the last 4 years that I keep looking for begins with technology, because that's really what turned it upside down. So information is power, and the United States has allowed social media platforms. American companies to kill democracy. 1,000 cuts is what we're living through. So look, you survived, barely. Myanmar had elections yesterday. We have elections in 2 years. Please do something now, because you can see, right? The influence operations that have happened on social media do not stay on social media. They change the minds of real people. And those real people can do unthinkable acts. So please do more, right? This time demands far more from all of us.
Maria Ressa and Ramona Diaz, thank you so much for this film, and thank you for taking time today.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.